We live in a world where validation has become a silent addiction. One like turns into a need for applause. One comment shifts how we feel about our calling. Before we realize it, we're building our lives around people who were never meant to be architects of our destiny. And somewhere in between their opinions and our insecurity, our purpose gets put on pause. But here's the truth. Your calling doesn't need consensus. What God put in you wasn't submitted for a vote. It was spoken in secret, birthed in brokenness, and designed for impact. So why are you hesitating to move forward just because someone else doesn't understand it? Some of the people you're waiting on for support can't even support themselves. Some of the approval you're craving is coming from people who can't see past their own limitations. And if you continue to live according to their comfort zones, you'll never step into your calling zone. You were not created to be controlled by compliments or crushed by criticism. If you keep letting people's approval determine your pace, you'll either stay stuck where they left you, or you'll keep running in circles trying to earn something you already have from God. Acceptance. Purpose doesn't ask for permission. Purpose doesn't wait for applause. Purpose doesn't wait until everybody's clapping. It moves when no one is watching. It moves even when people are walking away. It moves in silence and obscurity, in faith. Sometimes you'll step out and they'll misunderstand you. Sometimes you'll choose to grow and they'll call you arrogant. Sometimes you'll set boundaries and they'll label it betrayal. But none of that means you're wrong. It just means you're not living for them anymore. And if your purpose intimidates their insecurity, that's not your problem to solve. Because God didn't give them your burden, your vision, your fire, or your grace. He gave that to you. Some of you are sitting on ideas, dreams, songs, businesses, ministries. Not because you're unprepared, but because you're still waiting for the right reaction. But what if the right reaction never comes? What if the very thing you're waiting on is what's keeping you from walking forward? You've got to stop handing over the steering wheel of your purpose to people who don't even know where they're going. You keep pressing pause, not because you're not ready, but because you're not sure how they'll respond. But their reaction is not your responsibility. Their approval is not your assignment. Your job is to be obedient, not popular. To be faithful, not famous. To be bold, not balanced for their comfort. If you're constantly adjusting your obedience to avoid offense, you'll delay your destiny trying to make everyone else feel okay about what God told you to do. There are blessings that don't manifest until you move. There are doors that won't open until you walk. And there are battles that won't break until you believe you're already equipped. There are some things you can't carry into the next level. Some relationships, some mindsets, some habits, they were fine for where you were, but they're weight for where you're going. And that's the tension of growth. You want to rise, but you don't want to release. You want elevation without separation. But the truth is, everything can't go with you. Some of it was only meant to serve a season. God will often ask you to release before He allows you to rise. He'll ask you to walk away from what feels familiar, to make room for what's coming. And the problem isn't that you don't want better. The problem is that better often comes wrapped in discomfort. Releasing something that gave you comfort is hard, even when you know it's holding you back. Sometimes it's not about bad things. It's not sin. It's not shame. It's not scandal. It's just heavy. It's just not meant for where you're headed. You're asking God to take you higher, but you're holding on to things that were only designed for ground level. You can't take flight holding onto anchors. Think about it. An eagle doesn't soar because it's gifted alone. It soars because it lets go of the things that would drag it down. It doesn't waste time fighting pigeons on the ground. It rises. And in rising, it separates. The higher it goes, the less it sees of what used to surround it. There's a version of you that is waiting on the other side of release. A lighter, freer, bolder version. But you can't meet that version while clinging to people who keep calling you back to who you used to be. You can't rise into purpose when you're chained to old pain. You can't grow when you won't grieve what's already gone. That's the hard part no one tells you about. Release sometimes feels like loss before it looks like gain. It feels like pain before it produces peace. But the pain of releasing is still less than the pain of remaining stuck. You've been stuck trying to fix what God has already finished, trying to resuscitate what He allowed to die. Not everything that leaves your life is a loss. Some things are exits wrapped in grace. You've got to trust that the God who allowed the separation knows what He's doing. You've got to believe that what He's removing is no match for what He's about to reveal. But that only happens when you make the hard decision to let it go. Not just physically, but emotionally, spiritually, mentally. Because it's not enough to walk away in body if you're still attached in belief. True release is not just about distancing yourself. It's about disconnecting from the idea that you need it to be whole. Some of us are still waiting for closure when God already gave the cue to move. Still stuck in conversations that were never meant to continue. Still rehearsing memories that no longer match your mission. Release is not weakness. It's wisdom. It's the sign that you're ready to stop negotiating with your past and start investing in your future. It's the moment where you stop asking for permission to be free and start walking in the authority you've already been given. One of the greatest threats to your future isn't failure. It's distraction. The enemy doesn't have to destroy you if he can just distract you. He doesn't have to take your purpose. He just has to make you forget you had one. And he'll do it subtly, not through some obvious sin or catastrophic fall, but through a slow, steady drift from what actually matters. You were created with intention. You were designed with destiny in mind. But the thing about destiny is it doesn't shout, it whispers. And if your mind is cluttered with noise, with comparison, with conflict, with everyone else's agenda, you'll miss the voice that was meant to guide you forward. Distraction is often disguised as duty. You think you're being responsible, being available, being productive. But you're spending energy on things that aren't aligned with your assignment. You're managing chaos instead of moving with clarity. And if you're not careful, you'll wake up realizing that your focus has been stolen by things that don't feed your future. Social media doesn't seem dangerous until you're measuring your worth by someone else's timeline. The conversation doesn't seem harmful until it sows doubt where faith used to live. That relationship doesn't seem like a problem until it pulls your attention away from who you're becoming and back into who you used to be. Some distractions even come looking like opportunities. Just because it's a good thing doesn't mean it's a God thing. The enemy knows how to dress distraction in the clothes of validation. He knows if he can't tempt you with rebellion, he'll keep you busy with relevance. But staying busy doesn't mean you're being built. Sometimes it just means you're being drained. Destiny requires discipline. Focus is not a personality trait. It's a spiritual decision. It's saying no when everything in you wants to say yes. It's turning away from what's urgent so you can give time to what's eternal. It's recognizing that not every text needs an answer. Not every opportunity needs a response. Not every voice deserves access to your peace. Every time you choose to focus, you're making war against distraction. You're saying, my future is too important to be delayed by things that don't develop me. Because every second you spend scrolling, overthinking, reacting, defending, that's time you're not spending building, healing, growing, creating, praying. It's not just about avoiding bad influences. It's about being so locked in on your purpose that you don't even entertain lesser battles. You don't have time to fight for attention when you're called to walk in authority. You don't have space to carry offense when you're carrying anointing. You don't have energy to chase every opinion when you're pursuing something greater. The more clarity you have about where you're going, the more aggressive you have to be about what you ignore. Because distraction doesn't just delay your journey, it distorts your identity. It causes you to question what you already know, doubt what you already heard, and settle for what you were never meant to accept. Healing doesn't begin when the pain stops. Healing begins when you stop holding on to what caused it. As long as your hands are full of what hurt you, your heart won't have room for what can heal you. But the truth is, we don't just hold on because we want to. We hold on because letting go feels like losing. We equate release with defeat, as if surrender means weakness. But some of the strongest things you'll ever do are silent decisions to stop clutching what's been crushing you. You can't heal from what you're still nurturing. You can't move forward if your identity is still wrapped around who left, what broke, or what they said. Some people aren't staying stuck because they lack faith. They're staying stuck because they're still feeding what was supposed to die. You replay the conversation. You analyze the betrayal. You revisit the moment. And every time you do, you relive it. And anything you relive on repeat will start to reshape how you see yourself. That's the danger of holding on to pain. It doesn't just affect your past. It starts to infect your future. When your hands are full of yesterday, you don't have the strength to embrace tomorrow. And God can't pour new wine into an old wineskin that's still clinging to old wounds. He wants to heal you. But healing requires honesty. And honesty means admitting you've been holding on to things that no longer serve you. Memories, expectations, shame, bitterness. Some of the things you've been calling loyalty are actually emotional bondage. You're loyal to a version of someone who doesn't exist anymore. You're loyal to a season that's already expired. And every time God tries to open a door, you're still facing the one that closed. But closure isn't a conversation. It's a choice. You don't need another explanation. You don't need their apology. You don't need to understand why they did it. You need to decide you're not going to let it define you anymore. Healing happens when you stop rehearsing your pain like it's your anthem. When you stop building your identity around what broke you. When you realize that forgiveness isn't saying it was okay. It's saying you're okay without it. It's choosing to break the cycle so it doesn't continue through your choices, your relationships, your responses. You can't control what happened, but you can control what you carry. And if you keep carrying old pain into new spaces, you'll start bleeding on people who didn't cut you. You'll sabotage blessings that were meant to restore you because you're still reacting from a place that was meant to be healed. You'll mistake peace for boredom, kindness for manipulation, love for a trap, all because the filter you're seeing through is still fractured. Healing isn't about pretending it didn't hurt. It's about refusing to let it own you. Refusing to let it follow you into every room. Refusing to let it be the lens through which you see every opportunity, every friendship, every open door. Grace doesn't need to make sense to the crowd. It wasn't given to the crowd. It was given to you. And the moment you start trying to explain your grace to people who didn't walk through your wilderness, you dilute the very thing that saved you. Grace isn't about them understanding your process. It's about you accepting that God carried you through something they never saw. Too often, we want our grace to come with a round of applause. We want people to recognize our growth, validate our journey, and appreciate how far we've come. But the problem is, grace doesn't work like that. Grace is quiet. Grace is personal. Grace meets you in the dark where nobody else would have stood by you. Grace shows up when you've disqualified yourself, when you feel unworthy, when the mirror reflects shame instead of strength. And if you wait for people to agree with your healing before you receive it, you'll stay broken trying to look acceptable. You'll keep apologizing for surviving. You'll keep shrinking to fit into boxes God never placed you in. Because grace will sometimes pull you out of things you can't even put into words. And not everybody will like what you look like on the other side. Sometimes grace grows you in ways that confuse people who only knew the version of you that was stuck. And when they see you walking different, talking different, setting boundaries, dreaming again, they don't always celebrate it. They question it. They resent it. Because your freedom disrupts their comfort. Your peace exposes their dysfunction. Your rise reminds them of their refusal to change. But that's why grace isn't a group project. It's not built on popularity. It doesn't ask for permission. Grace is between you and the God who never left you. It's between you and the one who saw every failure and still called you worthy. It's between you and the moments no one else witnessed. The nights you almost gave up, the tears you didn't explain, the strength it took just to keep breathing. Grace doesn't need a platform to be powerful. It doesn't need a crowd to be real. You don't need to post about it to prove it's happening. Because what God is doing in you is deeper than what can be captured by likes or reposts or claps from people who only know the surface. And the truth is, if they can't understand the grace on your life, they probably don't understand the weight you've carried either. So don't expect them to validate something they were never entrusted with. What healed you won't always make sense to people who were never meant to carry your scars. What saved you might look strange to people still lost in their own storm. That's why grace doesn't always come with agreement. It comes with alignment, with obedience, with surrender. It pulls you out of places you thought you'd die in and brings you into places you didn't think you deserved. It's not for show, it's for survival. It's not for their comfort, it's for your calling. You don't need their approval to walk in your purpose. You don't have to stay stuck in what God already called you out of. Letting go isn't weakness, it's preparation. Distractions may come, but focus will lead you forward. Healing begins when you release what hurt you, and grace will carry you even when no one else claps for you. This journey is personal. It's between you and God. So stop waiting for permission to grow. Focus on what's in front of you. Let go of what's behind you. And trust what's ahead is greater than anything you left behind.